You know the feeling, don't you? It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, but your brain is actually back in that conversation you had hours ago. Or yesterday. Or last week. You're replaying every single word, every pause, every gesture. Did I say that right? Should I have said something else? Oh God, they must think I'm an idiot. You dissect your performance. Find flaws where there likely are none. And then the shame, the regret, the sheer exhaustion just washes over you. This painful loop of overthinking after every conversation isn't just annoying. It's a silent thief. It steals your peace, drains your energy, and, perhaps most insidiously, it cripples your confidence for future interactions. You become so afraid of saying the wrong thing that you end up saying nothing at all, or worse, avoid conversations entirely. What if this habit isn't just a personality quirk, but an active sabotage, preventing you from truly connecting and living freely? I was a master of this mental torment. After every meeting, every social gathering, every first date, I would retreat into my head, constructing elaborate alternate realities where I had been wittier, smarter, more confident. I'd cringe at imagined micro-expressions on other people's faces, convinced they were silently judging my every word. It was exhausting, this constant postmortem. I thought it was just being reflective, a sign of caring too much, but I soon discovered it was a silent killer of my confidence, stripping away any joy I might have gained from the interaction itself. It wasn't reflection, it was rumination, and I desperately needed a way out. So why do we do this? Why do our brains insist on replaying these conversational tapes, even when we know only makes us feel worse? Part of it is the fear of judgment. We operate under this spotlight effect, believing that everyone is dissecting our words as much as we dissect their own, when in reality, they're probably just as preoccupied with their own internal monologues. We also fall prey to perfectionism, the unspoken demand that every interaction must be flawless, leading to agonizing regret over perceived mistakes. And then there's hindsight bias, where, knowing the outcome, we believe we should have known better, even when we couldn't have in the moment. All of this feeds into a vicious cycle, where the more we overthink, the more anxious we become, and the more likely we are to replay the next conversation. So how do we escape this tormenting loop that keeps us trapped in the past? The solution isn't to simply stop thinking, which is impossible. The solution is to shift from replay to extract and release. This is the simple trick that transformed my post-conversation anxiety. Instead of endlessly reliving the conversation, you train your brain to seek specific, useful information and then, crucially, to let it go. Here's how it works in 2 parts. Part 1, the 2-minute extraction. Immediately after a conversation you're tempted to overthink, or as soon as you catch yourself in the loop, set a mental timer for 2 minutes. During these 2 minutes, and only these 2 minutes, ask yourself 2 very specific, non-judgmental questions. What was one thing that went genuinely well? This forces your brain to seek out a positive, countering the negativity bias. Maybe it was a good question you asked, a moment of connection, or simply showing up. What is one specific thing I could try differently next time if a similar situation arises? Notice the emphasis here. It's not what did I do wrong, it's what can I learn? And it's for next time, making it future-oriented and actionable, not past-focused and lamenting. This isn't about dissecting every nuance, it's about efficient learning. It's about taking the lesson and leaving the pain. For instance, if you said something awkward, okay, one thing that went well was I tried to be engaged. One thing I could try differently next time is to pause for an extra second before responding to give myself time to collect my thoughts. Done. Part 2, the mental release. Once your 2 minutes are up, consciously and deliberately close the file on that conversation. This is vital. You've extracted the lesson. Now it's time to let the rest go. You can use a physical cue, a deep breath, a conscious shrug, clapping your hands together, or a mental mantra. That's done. I've learned. Moving forward, this trains your brain that the ruminating is over. You've done your due diligence. You've learned what you needed to learn. This sounds too simple, right? But the magic is in its consistency and what it prevents. This trick is powerful because it addresses the core fears that fuel overthinking. It respects your brain's need to analyze and learn, but it sets a strict boundary on the duration and nature of that analysis. It transforms endless rumination into structured reflection, and it immediately reminds you of the most important truth. The other person almost certainly isn't thinking about it as much as you are. Your mistake is usually a blip to them, if they even noticed. Their attention, like yours, is largely self-focused. I started applying this 2-minute extraction after every call, every meeting, every casual chat. Initially, my brain would try to sneak back into the overthinking loop, but I'd gently remind myself, nope, I already did my 2 minutes. That's for next time. It felt like an exercise, a mental push-up, but over time, the impulse to replay faded. My brain learned that it would get its chance to process, but only in that defined, productive window. The confidence boost was remarkable. Instead of carrying the weight of past conversations into new ones, I felt lighter, more present. My anxiety around initiating conversations plummeted because the fear of the post-mortem diminished. It shifted my focus from how do I perform to how can I genuinely connect or learn. And ironically, when you're not so obsessed with perfection, your interactions become more natural, more authentic, and ultimately, more impactful. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being free from the chains of past judgment. So, if you find yourself caught in that suffocating loop of overthinking after conversations, I challenge you. The very next time you feel that impulse, set a mental timer for 2 minutes. Ask yourself, what went well? And what's one thing I could try differently next time? Then, take that deep breath and release. Reclaim your mental space. Reclaim your confidence. Because your future conversations deserve your presence, not the echoes of your past. Thanks for listening. If this resonated with you, try the 2-minute extraction after your very next conversation, and let me know how it feels. And remember, the real mastery of communication isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning from them and moving forward unburdened.